those who have not yet taken a seat, if you go ahead and take a seat, we'll go ahead and start. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Matt. Thank you for being here this afternoon. To start, we want to do a couple of acknowledgments. We do want to recognize board member Connie Morgan. Where'd you go, Connie? She left. Oh, she's in the back. She's not listening either. We want to recognize Connie being here. Our other board members would like to be here, but they're down at the state school boards convention today and tomorrow. I was down there this morning with them and came back, so they asked that I express appreciation for you all being here and for the work that we're going to be doing this afternoon. To begin, as you received an email from me earlier stating that we are going to be doing some audience participation stuff this afternoon. We're going to start today by getting you set up with that. So what I'd like you to do is pull out either your cell phone or your web-enabled device that you're planning on using. If you are using a web-enabled device, and if you have a buddy who needs help, please help your buddy. If you're using the internet, please go to pollev.com/FrankScopey312. If you would prefer to use your cell phone, you're going to text a message to the number 22333. 22333 is the number you are texting to. Your message is FrankScopey312. That's how you're going to join the conversation. You only need to do this step once today. So what I'd ask you to do right now is use either your phone or your web-enabled device and join the conversation with one of those two steps. You will probably not receive a confirmation message. Just know that if you've done one of these two steps, you will be set up. The way it will work is on the screen, a couple different times during the presentation today, there will be little poll questions. And you will be asked to respond by texting, or if you're online, by marking A, B, C, or D. And we're going to see the results of this. This is an automatic or an instantaneous response system. After the first survey, you will not have to join the conversation again. You just, if you're using your phone, for example, you will simply text B, hit send, and you will join the poll that will participate. So right now we're going to do a couple of practices. Because of time constraints, and because of the size of the group, we won't be doing any back and forth question and answer in this setting. This is primarily going to be sharing information with you. As we then divide and go with your colleagues and your administrators from your school, you will have more opportunities for dialogue. But this setting, because of time constraints and such, won't be for that. So we do want to make sure you take advantage of this. Oh. Let me jump ahead. So, your first poll, this should show up here in just a moment. It takes a minute to think and make sure that we're doing this. So the first poll is a very simple one. Which college I've done? Wow, somebody responded even before the question was up. So all you do is text A or B. I'm sensing some very clear biases in the building. Thank you, that person who bumped it up to 28%.
It tells me I can't, that there's too many, the maximum number of responses already allowed.
Then,
I answered too many?
yes, you can only answer one time.
I didn't answer.
Okay, just to show you now that you don't have to log in again, here's your second question. Oh. This is one where the remote doesn't work as well. We got to flip through. It'll only be after we do it. This is a more personal one. I used to wear bow ties a lot. And then I was told for a superintendent they're not professional enough. So I stopped wearing them. So this is great. Hopefully both today. Voice of people is the voice of God. So I can start wearing bow ties again. Okay. So this is something you will use periodically throughout our presentation today to share some of your thoughts. We go back 2 slides, please, Shane. So before we get into the big content, I'd like to take a little bit of time and just kind of have you indulge me a little bit. Several of you have seen these. I carry about 4 or 5 of these around in all my suit coat pockets now. When I go to school, I generally try to write a little thank you note to the teacher, to the office staff, something I see in the school, and drop a note off. Several of you have received these. Not everyone has. I haven't been in everyone's classroom yet. But that's something I generally try to do. With the holiday, I've fallen a little behind. So if you would indulge me, I'd like to take just a moment and do some thank you notes right now, if you wouldn't mind. So if you would just, I appreciate Mount Logan staff giving me this outstanding desk so I have somewhere to sit. Thank you, elementary school custodians, for being our first responders to calls of code yellow, code brown, and code chunky. Messy job, messy job. Thank you, teacher who clicks reply all when responding to district-wide emails. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us, all of us. It's a tricky button. Watch out for that. Thank you, Logan City District Board of Education, for the 0.0095% increase to my retirement included in the Christmas bonus stipend. Sorry about that one. Thank you, Logan High Athletics, for guaranteeing at least 4 more years of us hearing the phrase, you know Logan really ought to be 4 at school. Happens all the time, it never stops. Thank you, Carol Journal photographer Eli Lucero, for ensuring my photo in the picture looked like somebody posing for their senior picture. I am an adult. I can have my picture taken with my arms at my sides. Get this card open. Thank you, students who apparently plan to attend medical school, for your frequent internet searches related to human anatomy. Hashtag, thank goodness Logan and I have good filters. Just, this is kind of the joking part. But sincerely, thank you to begin anything that we do here today. Thank you for the work that you do every day with your students, every day in your classrooms, in all of our schools. One of the exciting things about a small district is it is much easier to get out into buildings and see the positive things that are happening. In a larger district, that's just more difficult. So I appreciate the chance to get out, walk the halls, sit in your classroom, and watch you interact with students. Thank you for everything that you do there. Oh, Shane, would you pop the button and get us through these 2 poll slides? Thank you. So what I want to talk to you about first today is this idea of flagship. And when people ask me, what's my goal for Logan City School District? When I come here back to Logan and think, what do I want to see happen? My goal is that Logan City School District be a flagship district, if not the flagship district, in the state of Utah. Now, we talk about flagship. You'll hear the word a lot. If this were a drinking game, that is the word we would use. Flagship! PLC! We've got a whole list. We've got a whole list of words. And you hear some more of them today. If you think about a flagship, the flagship is the ship in the fleet that everyone looks to for direction. If you're talking about a product or a business or an organization, the flagship is the organization that everyone looks to for that's what we want to be. I want Logan City School District to be the school district that other districts in the state of Utah and southern Idaho look at and say, that is who we want to be. Let's find out how Logan did it, and then let's see if we can do the same thing. In order to do that, we've got to do some pretty specific things. Now, before we start a discussion about being a flagship district, we've got to talk about ways that we already are. And kudos to Shannon Longhurst for putting together that video you saw as you came in. That is not by any means a comprehensive list of the ways in which Logan is already a flagship district, but it's a sampling. This neither is a comprehensive list. But we have a tremendous number of things that are going extremely well. Opportunities for us to show the rest of the state, this is how public education can work. This is what public education can do. We're talking about our Mount Logan Middle School is a 9-year school to watch. Logan High Academic Olympiad, I believe it's, oh you have to remind me, Jason, so I don't. Remind me, how many times out of the last 10 years have we won? 5. 5 out of the last 10 years, winning 23 to 25 districts across the state. Yeah, that's one you can clap for. Our nationally recognized teaching staff, we have a number of employees who have been recognized with national awards for the work that they do in our district. There are a tremendous number of extremely positive things happening in the Logan City School District. With that understanding, there are some things that we need to try to figure out how to improve. Our Hispanic achievement rate on SAVE currently lags 30 points behind that of our Caucasians. Our high school dropout rate is about 15%. That's not a bad dropout rate, but it's still a dropout rate. And we've got to have some conversations about how we shrink that. Our median growth percentiles on stage. 2 of our elementaries have median growth percentiles on all 3 tests at or above 50, which is a tremendous accomplishment. All the rest of ours are below 50. And our district-wide proficiency on stage exams is below 52%. We have tremendous positive things happening. We have other areas of need where we've got to figure out how do we address these. How do we help more students really reach and achieve everything that we hope that they do as part of our system. So the first thing we've got to do, if we're going to become a flagship district, is be very clear about our destination. I love this graphic because I think it represents what can happen when we aren't all aligned towards one common goal. It's very easy to get in one of these paths that go around the trees. You're still on a path, you're still walking, you're moving, and there's nothing that indicates you're in a bad place. But we're not making progress towards the end goal. So the first thing we've got to do is be very clear about where are we headed, what direction are we trying to get to. And that really is the role of the school board. That gets back to the idea of setting the mission of the district. The mission is, why do we exist? What's the purpose of the Logan City School District? Why do we even have a school district? And I've had several conversations with the school board, and we've shared this with focus groups of teachers and parents, and we've worked through it a lot at administrative levels. But what we came down to is the reason why the Logan City School District exists is to ensure all students leave our schools ready to create a positive future for themselves and for their community. We have some students that are going to leave our schools and they're going to go on to a 4-year degree program. And they need to be prepared with the attitudes, behaviors, and the skills to succeed in that. We have other students that are going to leave for a 2-year vocational certification program. And they need to be prepared with the attitudes, behaviors, and skills that will allow them to be successful in that. We have other students that are going to become entrepreneurs. They're not going to go for any formalized education after high school. They need to be prepared with the attitudes, behaviors, and skills to be successful. Our role is not to place them on a path. Our role is to help them develop the attitudes, behaviors, and skills that will let them pick their path and do so successfully. We don't decide who gets to go on which path. We do everything we can to make sure they have the freedom to choose their path. And that's what public education is about. It's about strengthening choice. It's about strengthening freedom. It's about liberty. It's about opportunities. That is our role, to help students have opportunities and have those doors open for them when they leave our community. So, what I'd like you to do to start is we have this survey, and some of you are online, I think have already seen the question. I believe all students can learn, and I'd like for you to pick which of those phrases you think best answers or best completes that sentence. Go ahead and take a moment, please, respond to that.
Do you know how many will actually allow to answer?
I don't.
Okay.
Not very many? Okay. Then this will just be a topic for broader discussion. We'll move through this. I apologize for that. I didn't realize there would be a limit on your responses. I'm sorry. So that happens when you don't practice with a large group first. We'll know for next time. There are a lot of things involved in helping students achieve and in helping students learn. Our approach at the district office, my approach as a superintendent, is that the correct answer to this is D. We should be willing to do anything it takes to help students succeed. We are dealing with young, developing minds. We are not going to place the responsibility 100% on them. We are the adults. We are the professionals. We're the ones who have been trained. We're the ones who have chosen to do this. It is our responsibility to make sure that this happens. Now, there will still be things that get in the way. There will still be challenges. There will still be obstacles. But our approach, we don't begin our approach by identifying reasons why we might fail. We're setting ourselves up to excuse failure. We start by saying, this is our responsibility, and we're going to do whatever we need to make sure that this happens. Would you click the station? So, in order to do that, what we would like to do is become what's called a high reliability organization. Now, high reliability organizations in the literature have these characteristics. They perform successfully under high stakes conditions. They demonstrate low variability in the quality of work between individuals and sites. They mindfully monitor for early signs of failure and respond quickly. And they use various evidence-based practices. And this is something that's been reviewed in multiple strands, both in education, outside of education, etc. In schools, this is more what it looks like. You have high levels of student achievement, high quality instruction in every classroom every day, low variability in the quality of instruction. That's not low variability in the delivery of the instruction. We have, we have around 600 employees that work in our district. We have many different teachers, people who have different personalities, different levels of experience, different teaching styles, etc. No two people in this room are going to approach a lesson in exactly the same way. No two people in this room are going to deliver a lesson in exactly the same way. So we're not saying that there has to be low variability in the delivery of the instruction. But there can't be high levels of variability in the quality of the instruction. The quality has to be high across the board if we're going to reach all students. And then we have to mindfully monitor and ensure superior execution of effective research-based practices. So we've developed this little graphic that kind of ties some pieces together that we want to focus on. Up at the top, we have our mission to ensure all students leave our schools ready to create a positive future for themselves and their community. We have the structure of a high reliability organization, and we have some non-negotiables. Now, non-negotiables are things that everyone in the organization is expected to do. We all do this. It's common across the board, and it allows us to provide support to one another, provide feedback to one another, and ensure consistency throughout the organization. So we have non-negotiables in instruction and achievement, and we're going to talk about non-negotiables for professional learning communities. Those are the three things we're going to hit now. And we're going to go through each of them so I can share some information with you. And then we'll tie it back There are other components of this, our teacher evaluation system. Our main goal with that is that the teacher evaluation system is tied to the non-negotiables, the things that we're asking you to do. So the way you're being evaluated is not separate from the things that we're asking you to do individually and in your teams. So we'll go over more of those connections in a later meeting. But to start, non-negotiables for achievement. These are things that we want to guarantee students are able to accomplish. And as we looked at the goal of helping students develop the attitudes, behaviors, and skills that allow them to create a positive future for themselves and their community, we asked ourselves the question, can we come up with one kind of end-of-the-road measure that would give us a window into whether this is happening? We recognize there's not a single measurement that can tell us everything about how a student is doing. We recognize that there are no perfect measures with that. We also recognize that if we were to create the perfect measurement, it would be so broad and so time-intensive that we wouldn't actually be able to do anything with it. If we were to do extensive portfolio assessment on every graduate their senior year, that would be incredibly time-intensive and just not a practical idea. So the measurement we landed on was the ACT, specifically the college readiness benchmarks. For those who don't know, the college readiness benchmarks are 4 standards that the ACT tests on, and they look at if you are able to reach a certain level of proficiency, if you're able to reach this benchmark, this is how it increases your chances of succeeding your freshman year of college. And that's been pretty established over time. Currently, the national average of students who meet all 4 college readiness benchmarks is 26. 26% of students who take the ACT meet all 4 benchmarks. At Logan High, in Logan District, our average is 23. So we're a couple points below the national average, well, 3 points. So our first goal is at the end of the 2017-2018 school year, the percentage of students reaching all 4 of the ACT's college readiness benchmarks will meet the national average. We want to get up to that 26%. And at the end of 5 years, we would like to pass the national average. Now, some people might say, well, we're only talking about 4 percentage points to meet that goal. That is all we're talking about. But that's still a significant achievement. Moving the needle on ACT achievement is not the easiest thing we could ever do. But it is a goal that indicates, are we getting more of our students to the point where we can say they've developed the attitudes, behaviors, and skills that are going to help them succeed as they move forward. Now that's the 5-year goal. We all know 5-year goals don't matter if we don't start breaking it down into annual goals. So annually, those are the 4 things that we would be looking at. Every K-3 student will achieve a growth score at or above the 48th percentile, as measured on the DIBELS assessments. For those secondary teachers who don't know, the DIBELS assessment is an assessment of early literacy skills. It's dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills. It tests fluency in the early grades, we're looking at letter sound recognition, etc. Students who take the 2016 SAGE assessments will achieve a student growth percentile equal to or greater than 50. So this is comparing the student's growth to other students in the state who scored exactly the same as they did in the previous year. It's not comparing a student who scored a 42 on the SAGE with a student who scored a 78 on the SAGE. It's taking that student who scored a 42 and comparing their growth to all other students in the state who scored a 42. And we're looking at how much growth do they make over the course of the year compared to other students across the state. And we want to be able to tell parents, we want to be able to tell students, that a student in the Logan City School District will make at least equal to or better than average growth when compared to other students in the state of Utah who scored the same as they did in the previous year. That our students are, at minimum, keeping pace with their same level of performance peers, and preferably are moving ahead. The percentage of students scoring at proficiency on each of the 2016 SAGE assessments will increase by 2 points at each school when compared to the 2015 results, and the percentage of students meeting all 4 of the ACT college readiness benchmarks will increase by 1 point. As we can do this each year, we have goals for elementary, Goals for secondary, as we can continue to slowly make these gains, I believe, these will get us to a point where we can say we are accomplishing the mission of our school district. We're not trying to sprint to some dramatic, we're exploding a 20% gain in student learning. It is a step-by-step, 100-mile march, bit by bit of getting there. After the achievement non-negotiables, what we want to do in terms of student learning, we're going to talk about instructional non-negotiables. These are the things that we want to have happen in every classroom every day. These are not techniques. These are not methodologies. This is not saying, teacher, here's what you have to do in your class. But these are all things that we have to provide. Every teacher in every classroom has to provide positive behavior supports. There are many ways to do that. There's not a set way. And we're not going to say, here's what your classroom management plan has to look like. We're simply going to say, you have to provide positive behavior supports. That's simply an expectation of being an effective teacher. Clearly communicated learning objectives. Lots of ways to do it, but they need to be done. Frequent opportunities for students to respond. Again, countless ways to support student response to instruction. We're not going to say how it has to happen because it's going to vary based on the makeup of your class, based on the content that you're teaching, etc. Embarrassing stories of principal. Working at Midvale Middle School, I have an 8th grade science teacher who is first year hire, alternative route to licensure, struggling. This is a university professor, extremely competent in science, incredibly skilled, passionate, etc. Struggled connecting with the students. We had a very diverse student body, highly impacted, all the Title I elementaries fed into our school. It was not the population that she had been prepared to come and work with. So I went into her classroom one day to do a lesson. I tried to do that periodically. And I went in teaching a lesson, and I understand science, but it's not my specialty. I haven't taught it before, so I was doing the best that I could, but I reached a point in the lesson where I had the entire row of kids with their heads on their desks trying to go to sleep. I was embarrassed. That was terrible. I had to change my approach. I had to change how we were giving students opportunities to respond. It shifted dramatically, and we were able to get them involved and do some things differently. Well, I'm not going to say, here's the strategy that Jason Soap has to use in AP US History to have students responding. But students have to be actively engaged in responding. That's what we'll do across the board. Assessment, gradual release of responsibility, ongoing feedback, and differentiation. You will receive a document that will look something like this, not today, well, some of you may, depending on what your school conversation is based on. You'll receive this document that has each of those non-negotiables for instruction. And what you'll see is first on the left, you'll have it labeled. Here's the non-negotiable. Then you're going to see how it ties to Observer Tab, the tool that's used as part of your teacher evaluations. Again, this is just to illustrate that the teacher evaluation process is tied to these non-negotiables. We're not going to have two separate things, so you can see where the connections are. The conditions for learning is the survey, the stakeholder input survey, the parent-student survey that's also used for your teacher evaluation. That's the survey that those questions are based on. So again, you can see a connection between the non-negotiables for instruction and that component of the evaluation process. Next, you have a description. So when I talk about positive behavior supports, here's what it means. It doesn't go into all the detail of how to do it, but it says this is what we're talking about. When we talk about opportunities to respond, this is what that means. When we're talking about feedback, this is what that means. And then there is a rationale that explains why this is such an essential component that we're putting it in as a non-negotiable. On the document you receive, it will also have citations that will show the references to the research that's been done that illustrate why we're choosing these things. These are not new ideas. In fact, most of you, if we were to sit down and talk through the list, you would be saying, yeah, I understand. That's something that I do. We're just trying to bring consistency and say this is what we are all doing. So as you're collaborating in your professional learning communities, as you're working together, you're able to provide that support to one another. So you've got the non-negotiables for achievement, non-negotiables for instruction. Let's talk a little bit about professional learning communities. Now, some of you might say, Greg, we hear PLCs a lot. Several of you have gone to trainings, you've gone to conferences. You may play drinking games with PLCs. I don't know. But here's the reason why we do it. I love this proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We're not just about going fast. As Laura said, this isn't a sprint. We're about getting something lasting for kids. We're about doing something that endures. We need to do it together. This is not a new idea. It shouldn't be a surprise that if you can get 2 or 3 dedicated, competent, skilled teachers working together on a problem, you can get better solutions than if you have one dedicated, skilled, competent teacher working on a problem. That's what this is about. The challenge that we saw at the start, our Hispanic students' achievement lagging 30 points behind that of our Caucasians. That's not something that's going to get resolved by everyone just doing their own thing. If that were the case, that would have already been taken care of. We wouldn't have that challenge. That challenge is going to be fixed when we have groups of capable, skilled, dedicated people working together to figure out solutions. And that's what I've seen happen. Going back to Midvale. Midvale was a highly impacted school. It was an invigorating, challenging, exhausting, frustrating place to work. I got cussed at more there than I've been cussed at in my entire life. Had one kid, file reports that I punched him in my office. That was the environment we were in. But when we had groups of teachers who in teams came together and figured out how to address problems, it was incredible the amount of growth we were able to see. And the satisfaction that was there both for teachers and for students. That's why we do professional learning communities. It's more effective. It's better when groups of teachers are doing it as opposed to individuals. And a lot of you already know this. That's why you're working in it. So it deals with the expectations for professional learning communities. Everybody's on one. Everybody participates. And there is an expectation that you meet at minimum at least weekly for 40 to 60 uninterrupted minutes or more when time is embedded in the teacher's schedule. For example, Logan High has more time embedded in the schedule. There is more time expected for collaboration. We know the 40 minutes, and this is primarily directed at elementary, we know that 40 minutes is not enough to get the work done. That's in the non-negotiables because it's what we have now. We will be working the rest of this year to find ways to provide more collaboration time for you to do your professional learning communities effectively at the elementary level. We know that you need more time if you're going to do everything we're asking you to do. So that is one of our directives for the rest of this year, is figure out how we're going to provide that. Every PLC team collaboratively develops and administers common formative assessments based on your essential learnings. I know this is something that many of your teams already are doing. Every PLC team utilizes CFA data to help answer those 4 questions. What must our students know? How will we know if our students are learning? How will we respond when they don't learn? And how will we enrich and extend for our students who are? Now, these are minimum expectations. I know a couple of you have already asked me the question, well, at our school, we have an additional question. We have the question, what evidence-based strategies am I going to use in my instruction to guarantee that students learn? If you would like to add that question, that's just fine. That's not a problem. As you as a school, or as you as a team work through this process, if you would like to add to this for your work, that's fine. We're just not going to take away. So for those of you who have asked that question, just to clarify. And every PLC team will use 1 or 2 district-wide PLC frameworks. When we talk about frameworks, we're talking about these, and those are just basically guides to lead the discussion. It allows teachers to know there's consistency. So, for example, if we have elementary teachers move from one school to another, which we do periodically have happen, that teacher doesn't have to learn a whole new framework or know they're going into something completely different. They know there's some consistency that they can get across the school. It allows us to support better collaboration when we have have consistency. It allows for better feedback. It allows for better refinements, because as we start to see holes in the process, as we start to see the need for improvement, people actually have some common language and common perspective that they can talk about. So every team will use one of these two frameworks. You choose which one fits best for the work of your team and the personalities of your team. You'll work with your teachers on your team with that, with your administration, so they know which of the two frameworks you're going to be using. None of this will work unless, from the district level, we are providing support to you. The commitment from the school board is to provide training, resources, communication and safety. This, for those of you who saw this at the end of the year, the whole tracks thing, we provide training for our teachers. We provide the resources to make sure that we're able to do what we're asking to have done. We ensure our achievement expectations are high. We communicate openly. That's why we're having this meeting, is to make sure the communication is there. And we do this in an environment of safety. Our challenge at the district office is to make sure that when we ask you to do something through your principals, that we are sharing the resources to do it. That we're letting you know this is not, if we were talking about budgetary stuff, this wouldn't be an unfunded mandate. This is something that we are trying to provide the support that will allow it to happen. And that is one of our responsibilities. And my commitment to you as a principal, I was a superintendent. It's still weird to say that sometimes. As a superintendent, my commitment is that I will not ask you to do anything that I don't believe we've given you the resources to do. I'm not going to ask you to just do more and more without some sort of support. Now, we have a couple hundred people in this room. If we were to have a conversation right now about what appropriate support means, I doubt we could come up with a unified message. So as we have that conversation, please understand that we are still going to have differences. There's still going to be disagreements. That's because we're an organization of human beings. It just happens. But my commitment is we will work to provide the supports that we need to be successful. Okay, we're going to skip our next couple polls because it's not working. But just so you know, you can look at the questions. Can we support these goals? Where are you at? We're not all going to respond today if we can't, but these are conversations we'll keep happening. Well, let's go home. If you have questions about these, okay, well, we'll stay here. See, you blew it. We were almost done. Well, we're still almost done. But if you have questions about these, if you're sitting here going, man, I don't know. I don't know if I can buy into this yet. Talk to your colleagues who feel good about it. See what's going on. Share ideas. I'm going to tell you this right now. Don't go into a room with people who all think the same thing you do and stew. That doesn't help anybody, least of all you. Talk to people who think differently. And here's why. Oh, you jumped us ahead, Shane. Sorry. Here's why you need to talk to people who think differently. We're going to talk about change and how we manage change. Some of us like change. And we're going to talk a little bit about why. And this is not a framework for thinking about change that I have developed. It's one that several of us have learned through different media. But let's imagine we're all standing on a beach. That's kind of a nice thing to imagine right now. And we're standing there and we have a flag planted in the sand next to us. That flag represents our traditions, our typical way of doing things, our habits, our beliefs, etc. It represents our institution, and in many cases represents who we are. As we're standing there on the beach by that flag, we look out and we see an island. We don't know what's on that island, but there's an island. That island represents change. Now we have three basic responses to change if we look at that island. First we have swimmers. Swimmers are the people who say, oh, there's an island, and they take off, and they're swimming. They don't know how far it is. They don't know what's on the island. They don't know what they're going to do when they get there, but there's an island. Some of us, when we see change, that's how we respond to change. Ooh, change! And we go. and we jump in. We immediately start running with the change. We're not really sure where the change is going to take us, but we like change. We like the newness. We like the constant movement. Our next response we might have is the shark watchers. And those are the people who stand on the shore and say, I'm not opposed to getting in the water, but I just want to make sure it's safe first. I want to make sure there aren't any sharks. I want to make sure that there aren't obstacles that I'm going to crash into and I'm going to get hurt. And those are the people who, when we're looking at change, say, okay, I'm not going to say that I'm opposed to the change, but I want to make sure that it's a good change first. I want to make sure that I'm safe. And then lastly, you have your flagpole holders. And those are the people who say, I'm not going to the island. I am staying here. This is my flag. My flag is planted. My hand is on my flag. I am staying with my flag. These are the ones that say, I will not PLC. To hell with you. This is not how I teach. This is not what I do. It is not what I signed up for. I will not do this. Now the interesting thing is, every one of these approaches to change has value. If you have an organization that is 100% swimmers, raise your hand if you think that's a great idea. Excellent. No hands up. Very good. An organization full of swimmers is reckless. An organization full of swimmers is not deliberate, and it can create an incredible number of problems. An organization full of shark watchers never makes progress. Because in order to find out if something works, we need some of those swimmers. Somebody has to be the first adopter. Somebody has to be the one who tries this so we can start experimenting and figure out what works. If all of us are shark watchers, no one ever steps in the water. And we never find out if that change is a good one and if it's beneficial for us. Flagpole holders are your institutional memory. These are the people who make sure that the change doesn't uproot the organization. These are the people that make sure that the values of the organization, the core identity of the organization, is still part of the change. None of these are bad unless they're pathological. Now, a pathological swimmer is somebody who is instinctive, not thoughtful. If you are an instinctive swimmer, that's a little bit dangerous. If you are an instinctive flagpole holder, that's a little bit dangerous. Because if our response to change, and let's be very honest, change is inevitable. In education, our students change, our population changes, our communities change, what we understand changes. And if our response to change is to resist change instead of manage it, we become like a pool of stagnant water. Stagnant water that stays there long enough leads to infected water. Stagnation leads to infection, which leads to death. And that's what happens when organizations resist change. They die. From the inside out, they shrivel up and become less effective. They don't function. So we don't resist change, we manage change. Now, it's essential to understand this because, and we're going to do 2 other slides, whole slides, they're really going to be awesome, but you just got to trust me on that. You need to identify in your building who are the swimmers, who are the shark watchers, and who are the flagpole holders. And then as a group, you've got to help each other move. You've got to help one another progress in appropriate ways. If you've got a swimmer pulling the group along, your flagpole holder might need to pull back just a little bit and say, hey, slow down. We can move as long as we don't uproot. And if the flagpole holder is just holding on, putting down stronger and stronger roots, the shark watcher and the swimmer might need to exert some influence. So Shane, if you jump us through the next 2 slides, please, because we'll skip these polls. They were outstanding. But I was going to have you say, what's your response? So let's do that real quickly. If you are a shark, or no, don't be a shark. That's not one of the examples. If you're a swimmer, put your hand in the air. Okay? If you're a shark watcher, put your hand in the air. Okay. If you're a flagpole holder, put your hand in the air. Okay. Remember, all of these are valuable. They're all necessary. Unless, and here's the word, they're pathological. Don't be a pathological swimmer. Don't be a pathological flagpole holder. And don't be a pathological shark fighter. Be thoughtful. So there, okay, there we get some examples there. The next one was asking you, what do you think the majority of the people on your staff are? And you got to look around and kind of see where you're at. But we need to help one another work through who we are and how we respond to change. And the way I'd like for you to do that is the story of the spyglass. Raise your hand if you know this story, if you've read the book. Okay. Well, I'm your superintendent now, so you're going to hear it every year. As a principal, this was something everyone on my staff got to hear this. Wilson, not so much because I was still figuring it out, but everywhere else they got to hear it every year. In summary, the story of the spyglass. There's a kingdom, and this kingdom is in disrepair. Everything's falling apart, it's poor, nothing grows in the fields, people are sad, houses are falling down, they're dirty, etc. And this traveler comes to town one night, and he's looking for a place to stay, and he ends up going up to the castle because it's so run down. It just looks like an inn. Knocks on the door. The king answers the door, and he's in dirty robes, tarnished crown, etc. And he invites the man in. They have dinner together, and the king spends the dinner just bemoaning the condition of his kingdom. Yeah, this used to be a great kingdom, and now it's not. You know, and look at all these problems that we have. And the man listens and he listens and finally says, you know, I have a gift for you. Let me sleep here tonight. Tomorrow morning I'm going to give you a gift. He says, okay. King's got nothing to lose. The next morning they eat breakfast and the traveler takes the king out on the veranda and they look out over the kingdom and he hands the king a spyglass. Much bigger than this one. But he says, look out over the kingdom. The king takes the spyglass and he looks and he sees fields full of grain. He sees happy people. He sees a healthy, thriving marketplace in the town. He doesn't believe it. He puts the spyglass down and he sees, everything as it currently is. So he looks again and he sees this amazing, kingdom. And he tells the man, it's a trick of the glass. And the man says, no, you've seen what might be. Now go and make it so. And the traveler leaves. He says, I'll come back in a year, and he leaves the spyglass with the king. So the king now goes out into his kingdom. He gets on his horse and starts riding. He comes to a farm. And the farmer's sitting there just kind of listlessly messing around with his tools. And the king says, well, why aren't you out growing grain? Why aren't you working your field? And the man says, it's full of weeds. Nothing will grow here. It's not worth it. The ground's too rocky. And the king says, no, you're wrong. Look. And he gives the farmer the spyglass. And the farmer looks through the spyglass and he sees a fruitful farm. He sees grain. He sees orchards. He sees this amazing place where he can work. And he says, it's amazing. And the king says, you've seen what might be. Now go and make it so. Then the farmer gets up and starts working. And this happens with multiple people in the kingdom. The king has this conversation, always ending the conversation with, you've seen what might be. Now go and make it so. And at the end of the year, you can probably imagine, the kingdom is in a very different place. The king is in a different place personally, but the kingdom is thriving. And the traveler returns, and they have this conversation about what made the difference. And ultimately, it comes down to recognizing the reality that's in front of us, but remaining focused on what we see through the spyglass. As we continue to move forward as a district, as we continue to figure out how do we address the discrepancy between achievement between our Caucasian students and our Hispanic students, as we continue to find out how do we help more kids graduate from high school prepared for what's going to come next, there will be challenges. There will be disagreements. There will be in your team meetings, in your school meetings, there will be times where you do not like what's being said, either by your administration, by a colleague, or whatever. My challenge to you is to keep looking through your spyglass. As a principal, what I tell my teachers every year is that you're going to have students in your classroom who come to school thinking they are the field full of weeds. They are the ground that's too rocky to grow anything. And the unfortunate thing is many of your students have had adults who have reinforced that belief. Your job as a teacher is to see your student through the spyglass and see not just what is sitting in front of you, but see what might be, and then go and make it so. My invitation to you is, as we work as a district, as we identify who we want to be as a district, as we work to be a flagship district, that you help one another not focus on the problem, recognize the problem, acknowledge it. For those of you who rented the break, we're talking about the stocked-up paradox right now. Recognize that, but focus on what might be and what needs to happen to make that so. It is my conviction that when we do that, we feel we are better able to support one another as educators, we're much better able to support our students, and we're better able to create the community that we want to have. And that is my goal as a superintendent. For however many years I get to stay here in this spot, or however long I get to work with you, that is what I want to have happen. And that's what I'm going to work for, and I hope that you all are willing to do that with us. With that, we're done with this part. Gotcha. What I'm going to have you do now, before you go, just a quick summary. You are going to meet with your colleagues from your school, and you have rooms assigned to you. Thank you to Mount Logan for hosting us here. You're going to have some conversations about what the things that I've shared with you today mean for what your school is doing, what direction your school is going, the things you already have in place, and what things you want to continue to do. We do have snacks and water out here. As you get it, as you're going to your locations, please feel free to grab something, unless your New Year's resolutions prevent you from doing so. Thank you again for everything that you do. Thank you for being here. Have a great rest of your afternoon.